You've tuned in to the Beyond Hope podcast, your access to success strategies and more to help you survive and thrive through your loved one's addiction challenges while you move onward and upward with your life. Now, here's your host, Shar Jones.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Shar Jones, and I'm the host of Beyond Hope, and I'm also the mother of an addict. So I understand what it means to love someone who struggles with addiction. It has been a very long journey for me, but I have gotten to a place of hope, beyond hope, which is kind of the ironic twist to the name, that I think really hope is where the healing begins. And on the other side of hope is life and joy and love and all these things that are no longer contingent upon the recovery of our addicts. So what I'm hoping to do with this podcast is bring to you so many people that I respect and admire, experts within the industry of addiction and recovery who have so much valuable information to share with me, with you, with all of us. And in addition, we'll be bringing you some stories of hope and hopefully some laughs, maybe some tears along the way, but it's going to be all good. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to this journey with you.
I remember being that 15-year-old that felt that certain way, that just life is not fair and I'm different and all these things, It's really just anyone that is suffering from those limiting beliefs that I'm never going to be good enough. And that is such a lie. That's the biggest lie I've ever told myself, is that I'm never going to be good enough.
Hey everyone, welcome. I am very honored to share with you my next guest. Sean and I met over the summer. We did a recovery coaching certification together, and we became friends and have continued to support each other on our journeys. And I'm so honored to have him on the show. I know that this is going to be his first of many podcasts to come, and I just appreciate you supporting him. His story is heartbreaking and incredibly beautiful in the same breath. I mean, all the things that he has been through and the way that he is sharing his light and his faith with the world and helping others is incredibly uplifting. And I just know that there's someone out there that is going to benefit from hearing Sean's story. So I just want you to know that you can always reach me. You can send me an email if you have comments or questions to shar@beyondhoperadio.com. You can also reach me on my website at beyondhoperadio.com. And if you feel inclined to do so, you can also support the show by subscribing or submitting a review or sharing the show with others who you think could benefit from our message of hope. And with that, thank you again for listening. Here is Sean, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
My name is Sean Stradling. I'm currently 39 years old. I live in Spokane, Washington. I grew up in a military home. We moved every 4 years, and I grew up in a very dysfunctional alcoholic home that affected me and my brother, my mom, and my dad. I grew up to me, abusively, verbally and physically. So I think early on, I just never fit in. I always felt like I was never good enough, that I didn't do things right. Just want to throw the disclaimer. I love my father very much. I hope that someday he can also get on the same path that I have found. I think very early, I started running with the older crowd. I felt very compelled. They seemed like the cool kids, right? And so smoking cigarettes, started drinking very early, probably 11, 12, 13 years old. And for me, that made me feel a part of. I've always, and still sometimes to this day, I still suffer from the self-limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough. I was thinking earlier about what I would talk about, and I wanted to share, that the drugs and alcohol for me obviously were just what worked for me. It made me feel good inside. It made me feel 10 feet tall, bulletproof, all that good stuff. I was remembering I never felt normal. And what that looks like is fear and doubt. I know, just kind of, again, going back to the way that I was raised and the chaos that I felt, whether it was real or not, that's just what I remember being a young man in my father's home, was tons of fear. There's one story, at least in my mind, that comes to my mind was I remember being so afraid of just even asking him just to go outside after school to play. And that's really what I grew up with. So, the alcohol I found very early, and the cigarettes, like I said, and, that quickly moved into more things as time went on. I believe 14 or 15 was when I smoked marijuana for the first time. Then I was introduced to LSD and cocaine. This was, I'm trying to remember which grade I was in. I think I was sophomore. So my sophomore year, I went to my first treatment center at 15 years old.
Wow.
Looking back, obviously, the path that led me there was already destructive. I just was a very depressed young man. I played football. I ran track. I was very good at both. And I remember my coach telling me, because he knew I started smoking cigarettes, that if you're going to continue this behavior, get off my field. And I told him, okay. And I walked off. So there's many things that I've walked away from or given up due to my addictions. My first bout with treatment was Grand Forks, North Dakota, and I went through that program. I think it was like a 28-day, something like that. I got out. It was my first taste of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think, pretty sure I went about 6 to 9 months, and I really started having that spiritual awakening that they talk about. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure, but it just, something happened inside where it didn't work for me. I ended up leaving the rooms and deciding other things were more important, plus just the thought of being 15 years old. And, I remember getting out of treatment and I was just, still in high school. I had to go back to school, and, all the friends that I had before, now it was just weird and stay away from him, what's up with him. So the only connection I really ever had was the drugs and alcohol, and I lost it. So I did end up going back to using, and 17 years old, I found methamphetamine. Mm-hmm. And once I found meth, it pretty much all she wrote until I got clean when I was 33. 18 years old, I was having sexual encounters with my old high school counselor, and I was being paid for sexual acts. So, that doesn't sit well. It just doesn't sit well with a human being, knowing that they are willing to go to the depths of literally selling their body to just get money, to just get to a point of, I know what's going to work to get rid of these feelings right now. So it was kind of a very quick decline mentally for me. I can't even to this day really explain. It's easy to talk about it, but when I really look at it, it's very dark and it's very dirty. It doesn't feel good inside. There's still a lot of, I don't know if it's shame or guilt or, just knowing that the depths that I'm willing to go just to feed the addiction that's inside of me, So you add that with, I joined the Marine Corps when I was 22 and I got physically hurt. So I was only in 6 months. And let me go back. I'm always running. I'm always trying to find the right formula to make me feel okay in my own skin. And up to this point, everything just seemed to always point and reinforce that I'm a failure and I'm always going to be a failure. Those are really hard mental things to overcome. Let's fast forward to when I got clean 33. By this point, I am a 4-time felon. My kids want absolutely nothing to do with me. I'm unemployable. I got this great smile now, but these are dentures. How do you bridge that gap? How do you really feel worthy of recovery? I was on DOC. I did 31-day violation, and then they sent me to treatment. I got out of treatment. I stayed clean for almost 6 months, went back out.
And when you say DOC, let's tell the listeners what that is.
Sure, that's the Department of Corrections. So I was on probation for one of my felonies, one of the cases that I was found guilty of. So I was on community supervision, and the first time I ever met my DOC officer, he came into my room and found a bunch of dirty needles, and I'm talking a lot. There's no number. There was no number at the end of it. But I remember him looking at me and saying, "You are a very sick young man, and we're going to try to get you help." And they did. But it didn't work. It's, again, I really can't explain why all these establishments up to this point never worked. So I'm going to say my kids not loving me anymore or wanting me around wasn't enough.
Yeah.
The courts sentencing me and telling me, we see you again, you're going away, wasn't enough. So again, you have all these dynamics that come into play with a whole lifetime of just anguish. The only thing I can really share is the color black. I felt black and empty and lost and hopeless, helpless. There's some literature, because I'm in 12-step programs. It talks about being at an animalistic level. It really was, I was willing to steamroll through whoever and whatever to get the next high. And that's a feeling that I pray I never feel again, because knowing at some point I basically chose those things, whether it was a true choice or not. Mentally, I'm willing to let go of my family, my kids, my life, all for this, and what is this? So you have to define the definitions of what's really going on with me. And then, let's really expand on that. And we start getting into, can I believe in this universal energy, this God, this spiritual higher power thing that I'm supposed to believe in? For me, it was my whole life as far as, if there is a God, then that God hates me, because why would I have been given this life? Now let's fast forward to where I am today. I'm glad that I have walked the path that I have, because I am a vehicle that gets to be used to help other men. It's not uncommon for me to work with other men that have the same sexual type stuff that is taboo. We don't want to talk about that we've done these things. So we actually have people out there just dying because they're afraid to get fully honest. My story is my story, and I'm so blessed, and I'm grateful that all the things have happened to me, because with that comes my experience, and with that comes my empathy. I fully empathize with not only recovering addicts and alcoholics, but just human beings in general. So today, I'm a sponsor. I have a sponsor. I am part of Narcotics Anonymous. I go to AA as well. My whole life is based literally in helping others in any way I can, So my company that I own is called the Recovery Corps, and it's a recovery coaching company, a life coaching company. On top of that, the last few years I've been in the treatment field, I think just a little over 3 years. So I've been clinical support staff. I've been the director of housing for two separate treatment programs here in Spokane now. And I'm grateful. I'm just so grateful. My life is amazing. The darker side of it really is, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And I'm still baffled. I really am. Every single day I go to bed, I'm just grateful. And I think that's what's truly helped me maintain this, not to mention the hard work I have really put in getting over those limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. Look at your whole life, Sean. You don't deserve any of this good stuff. You have smashed people and illusions and all these things. How dare you believe that you can have a happy life? And that really is the crux I feel when I first came in. What finally happened for me was I really, Shar, I can't explain it. I remember the last day I used, and I just remember this, again, that black, empty feeling. And for the last time, I looked up and was like, God, if you're real, you got to help me, because I got to quit. This is killing me. And I think when we're young, we're just invincible, and we think we have all this time that, and the reality is we don't. And I think finally, somewhere inside, I realized I am going to die this way. I'm not going to have the opportunities to live a normal life, if there is one. I'm not going to have these opportunities. Again, what do you do with somebody like that? That is literally inside, just empty. Like, all bets are off. I give up. I just know I'm here, and I know my story is different, and I'm constantly, every day, I'm learning more about myself. The more I walk through the things that I walk through, because when I first got into recovery, seriously, if I smiled, you would cringe. It was bad. I mean, my teeth were just bad, missing, black. It was bad. But I had amazing men that took me under their wing and showed me love and compassion and never gave up on me. I still went out, nice suit, nice tie, even with missing teeth. And I walked through that fear of shaking someone's hand and smiling, knowing that, man, they're going to see this. They're going to know. But what do? You have to start building that strength inside yourself. And you can only do that by walking through this. That is the truth. Because only through walking through that, I realized, okay, I didn't get the job. I saw them cringe, but it's okay. I didn't die. I had people that I could call, and I walked through it, and I didn't die, and I didn't have to use. So the more that you're able to do that just day after day, and repeated events of little things, I still, my clean date is 7/1/2011. I just celebrated 6 years. So I'm into my 7th.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I love it. My life is amazing today, but it is because I never gave up. And I do believe that there is this power greater than myself. I call it universal energy. I believe in positive energy. I want to share this with you too. Up until 4 years, I still felt that person that still wasn't worthy of this kind of life. And this is after, this is 4 years. This is 4 years of tons of meetings, sponsors, step work, tons of work internally, and still feeling that way, And so it doesn't baffle my mind today when I see that newcomer face and then I don't ever see him again, or I see the ones that come in and struggle, because I know today, thank God, I have these tools under my belt, and I have this internal fortitude today that I'm never giving up. I'm not going to give up. I know every day is a new experience for me to learn and grow. I believe every lesson is a spiritual journey. I believe, like today, I love rejection. I love the answer no. Please tell me no, because it just fuels me. It's not, and I don't take it negative. I used to, one of my sponsors told me, Sean, this was before I had this beautiful smile, before I had these dentures, was that it's going to be the 64th job that you apply for that you're going to get. But if you don't apply up until that point, you're not going to get them. And thank God that man was in my life and many others to tell me that type of stuff, because it's hard. You come in and you come into recovery and you already have so many roadblocks. So we come in and we feel very abandoned. We feel we're full of shame. We're full of guilt. How do we move past that? Here's this huge mountain that I'm just looking at, and I'm like, oh man, that the top is no way. It's hard. It's really hard. It's hard I'll just speak for myself. It was very hard. And I think this isn't my first go round. Like I said, my first treatment was 15 years old. I believe I volunteered to put myself through treatment at one point. 3 days in, I walked out. Yeah. And then the last treatment center I would have gotten an escape charge or prison if I didn't go. So I went. But how do you really get past those things, and so the reason, if you don't mind, the reason why I even started the recovery core is I see this stuff. So let's just say you have a system in place, right? And I love treatment centers. I love AA. I love NA. I think they are all wonderful systems to be out there. But I think there could be something more, and like what I'm offering to clients is that more. It's that, they get me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if they so choose to engage in that. But that's the services I offer. I am here for them because I know what it's like to walk out of treatment, and I know what it's like to still, with 6 years, still be afraid to walk into a meeting when there's more than 15 people, and it scares me. How does someone really recover when they feel their family has abandoned them, when they feel society has abandoned them? Now, this isn't blame. By all means, this isn't blame. I accept personal responsibility for my whole life. Every time I used, all the consequences, I accept that responsibility. What I want to share is the shame and the guilt and how hard that really is to overcome, to look your family back in the eye, because how many times have they heard, I'm not going to use again? I'm going to quit this time. This time's different. What do you do, right? So speaking from the addict, I had to learn that it is unacceptable for me to even believe that my family should just wrap their arms around me right away and say, good job, you're clean. Thanks for cleaning our house out last time and pawning it, because that's the reality of where I go with that. The addict part is do the work, keep moving forward, and everything will come together in the end. And even if it doesn't, you still have to move forward if you want to walk this journey of recovery. Now, to talk on the other side of being a parent with a child that I felt was starting to go down the same path that I was going, I believe in this higher power, this God, and I believe that I somehow was picked out of the life where I was and thought I was never going to get out of. I have to believe that each individual, and especially my children, and especially my daughter at that time, has a path that she has to walk. I don't want to get into debates of tough love, don't do tough love. I personally believe in individualized everything, because I promise you, if my daughter ever called me and said, Dad, I need your help, I will drop everything and I will go. That's just the reality. That's where my heart's at. I don't honestly know if I could do the full tough love. At the same time, there were opportunities to where I could let go and not respond. Or I know she wants this money, but what does she really want it for, and not give it, So there were opportunities to work my own program for myself, because I do believe in Al-Anon, and I do believe that this is a family disease. I think it's more than a family disease. I think it's a societal disease, whether people want to look at it that way or not. My belief is it takes a village to really help someone overcome something, and we really are still in a time where, even now, okay, with the resume that I do have, and I've worked very hard for it, not only have corporate companies trusted me to run divisions of their companies, I own my own company, and I work very hard at making this work and giving it a go. I still run into, because on paper, I'm a violent thief. I have 3 counts of second-degree burglary and a rioting with a deadly weapon. It doesn't look great. So there are things in society that I still can't go and do because of my past. Whether that's right or wrong, doesn't matter. It's just the truth. But I guess in the end, regardless, you have to move forward.
Right.
So I want to share, and then I'll open it up for questions from you. In my recovery, I had to get to a point, because my son, when I got clean, was right behind me. He was right there. Dad, I love you. Great job. Just keep doing it one day at a time. I'm here. It was different for my daughter. It took probably, I think, 4 years, up until pretty close to where she got pregnant. I have a granddaughter now. But that whole time, I get it. I hurt that poor girl, and including my son, obviously, but he was just more open in the beginning. It's taken a while for my daughter to really trust that this is her dad, that this process is actually working this time, because again, let's go all the way back to all those empty promises. I promise I'll be there, and no, I won't use again. And, and this and that. And the list just goes on and on and on, of things and, my word and bond that I've broken. But I did the step work and moved forward, even with the reality, because I had to look at it. Maybe the damage is so done that she's never going to love me back in her life. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And being able to walk through that process, because I'm not going to hang up my recovery over that. It doesn't feel good. No, like the reality of it happening was not great to walk through. But you have to be able to do that sort of thing. If I were a parent, and I am a parent, so I just want to share that, again, it's kind of that same process of, let's look at just the reality, because the harsh reality is there. They may not come back. They may not make it. They might make it. Maybe it's the 100th treatment center. Maybe it's the 50th meeting. Maybe it's the second time they go through the steps that it's going to click for them. I don't know what that magic formula is, but I do know being affected, we have to move forward, regardless of how painful that is. And that's why I am a firm believer of Al-Anon and those kind of programs. And I love this idea of what you're doing. I think it's amazing to have moms coming together to talk, to have a place to come and heal.
Sean, I can even imagine what that must have been like, moving through all those twists and turns that your addiction took you. But just so grateful that you're here and that you are doing this incredible work, because your work is so important. I just want to thank you as a mother. I'm so grateful to know that you're out there in the world doing your work. And that means a lot to me.
Thank you.
A couple things that were kind of popping up for me. I just know I've got a couple people that are coming to mind when you were talking about that darkness and then that mountain and looking up and just feeling completely overwhelmed. And I think probably early on, when your first few days under your belt, and the fog starts to clear a little bit, and you really see the destruction, it saddens me to think of that person in that place where they're just not sure how to do it. Kind of talking to your younger self, that could be listening right now. Like, what do you want him to know?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because part of my step work has been reaching inside and talking to different ages. Make it sound crazy, but it's amazing, actually. So I know that my 15-year-old used to tell me or ask me when I was doing this work, why did you give up on me? Why did you go down this path? Why did you allow this to happen? Again, it's very amazing work to be able to do that, because I've been able to go inside and cradle that 15-year-old with that love and share that I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I felt like I was protecting that 15-year-old. I felt like, we can go all the way back to when I was 7 years old or 5 years old. These are very key points in my past that some major things happened. So those are the ages that I go to and talk to. So I would tell my younger self, get help, whatever that looks like. Be honest about what's going on with you. Don't let the shame and the guilt eat at you. I think today we suffer as a society. I'm also working on a book that deals with this. There's this great illusion that I grew up with. You're a man. Stand up. You boys don't cry. It's like, okay, well, you just spanked the crap out of me. I'm crying. Why wouldn't I cry? It just, so it's very mixed messages from a very young age that gets ingrained in there.
Mm-hmm.
So boys don't have feelings. We don't talk about our feelings and all these things. And the truth is, I think men and young boys are very sensitive, whether they want to admit it or not. So if it was a young man that I was speaking to, I would say, be truthful with yourself. Be truthful with what's going on with you, and then move forward from there. And don't be afraid of talking to your mom, a counselor, your dad, friends, something, because I think the other disservice that we do is bottle it, and just keep pushing it down into that pressure cooker. And, who knows what's going to happen when that release valve pops. And it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be violence, it could be crime, it could be, let's go on the positive. There are positive outlets for that. Could be music, could be art, could be, either way, how are we able to express what's really going on with us and not be in fear? I think we really are maybe it's changing, and maybe I'm just narrow-minded, but I really do believe that society has different values and belief systems for men, for women. I think that those have to change. They really have to be looked at because I think we're doing a huge disservice to our kids. I really do.
I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about, thinking about your relationship with your mom. We've talked about this a little bit, but I know that she was a very strong support system for you.
Yeah.
But now we talked a little bit about the shift in perspective for you as a father, but I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about how your perspective has changed now that you are working with families of addicts, that you're trying to get these addicts help, and just looking at that shift of perspective as the addict with the mom that may be enabling. There may be some enabling going on. And now coming around the corner, and I'm not saying that specifically about your mom, but generally I think as moms, especially at some point in time in their addiction, there's enabling going on because
Sure.
we're confused.
Sure. Right.
The relationship has shifted and we don't recognize that yet. So, but
Right.
now that you are working with those moms and I just want to know a little bit more about what you think about that. Has your perspective changed now that you're working with those families of addicts that you're trying to get them help?
Right. Yeah, my views have definitely changed. And I do work with families. So before I go into it, I'll just say this is my opinion and my opinion only. There is really no right or wrong answer. I really don't feel there is.
Yeah.
Again, tough love, no tough love. I do believe that if there is a hope, that there is sincere desire, please don't close the door. This doesn't mean give them tons of money. I definitely say, okay, if they're saying for the 100th time or the first time, I'm hungry, I'm starving, okay. If you want to help, take them shopping, buy the food. Don't give them the opportunity to have the cash. Don't give them a credit card. Don't give them anything of that nature. If you're going to try to help them, let's just say, for example, that they are just getting out of treatment. Maybe they want some help with rent, or maybe you have the ability to do that type of stuff. I really would look at what the counselors are saying, and I would look at the recommendations from them and try to match those, keep in line with what the counselors are trying to do, whether it's treatment centers, a recovery coach, or a sponsor, or whatever, because I think they're very pointed and all very experienced in the knowledge that they're trying to share. Mm-hmm. So again, the big thing I think is don't do cash. Don't ever do cash. Yeah. Start looking for resources out there to help them, because I think that a lot of us fall short of that. I know there are some, most places have resource lists. Let's just say again that it's a child that's coming out of treatment. There's a lot more help for those resources. But now let's talk about the child that's still in active addiction. I still say if there's sincere desire, just don't give up on them. That doesn't mean you have to bend over backwards and cater to their every need. My experience today is I don't ever want to give up on an addict that if they're making a phone call to say, Sean, hi, I know deep down that is desire. That is, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing, but I don't know how to change. And I haven't learned yet to say, Sean, please help me. That's not every case, but that is a lot of the cases. Is it's hard to utter those words. I'm defeated.
So true. I just find like that is the hardest part for them. I almost wonder, like, when you're in your addiction and you're telling, your mom or whoever, like, I'm not going to use again. This is it. Part of me wonders if you on some level believe it,
Yeah. And that's kind of why I was saying that there is no, I can never, nor will I ever try to gauge someone's willingness or desire. I mean, let's say I'm sponsoring somebody and the assignment is call me every day for 30 days. If they don't do it, maybe I use that as a gauge to say, you must not have wanted it bad enough. But the only reason I share that is that's kind of a typical thing that I see go on. Now, me personally, if you're calling, even if it's 10 months down the road, you're willing, in my opinion. And that to me just means I'm not going to close the door. My door personally is always open as far as communication. I don't mean here's money. I don't mean you can sleep on my couch. I just mean I'm willing if you're willing. Absolutely. I never shut that door. I'm always here. The phone is always on. I always stress to the family, you have to work on yourself. You have to work on yourself. You have to look at that. And you have to look at the realities. None of us want to bury a child. None of us wants to go through that. But the reality is there. If you have an addicted child, the reality is you may get that phone call, the one that you definitely don't want. And what does that look like? So I always encourage looking at the really hard questions like that and then start gauging the tough love, not tough love. Do I help? Do I not help? Because I don't ever want to tell somebody an answer that they can't live with at the end of the day. I would never want to do that.
Right.
My only suggestions really are, what does it look like when they're gone? Because the reality is there. And then really just gauge it from there. Because I have talked with multiple sets of parents, not only as housing director for these other companies, when kids have AMA'd, I was the one that had to call the parents. And not only did I hear the crying moms, like, is my child going to die? What do you say? I mean,
I've been there. I've been that crying mom. And just for our listeners, AMA.
Oh, that's against medical advice. So if a client leaves against the treatment recommendation, then it's called an AMA.
And as a mom, I got to tell you, like, those are some of the most painful phone calls you're going to get, because of just all that has to happen to get to that point where they're willing to get that help. It's a heartbreaking phone call to get, for sure. I can't even imagine being the one to make that phone call.
Yeah, and that's why I just say that this is just so devastating on all fronts. Doesn't matter if you're the housing director, the addicted human being, the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister.
Yeah.
It's just so many facets of society are affected by drug addiction and alcoholism.
It impacts everyone, for sure. And just thinking about, if you just wouldn't mind touching on this a little bit, like, for that person that just is giving up, giving them a little bit of hope, like, how different is your life today? Like, in a snapshot, how different is your life today from when you were deep in your addiction? What's changed?
Everything has changed. I don't carry the burden of what I had before. I don't today. I don't have the obsession to use. I have nothing but love in my heart, where before it was just hate and discontent. It's beautiful. I'm a walking miracle. I truly believe that. But it is because of other men and women that have been there for me to be my support when I did want to give up. There are plenty times in my recovery where you just walk through something and you're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is just too much. And it's being able to get out there and network and find that recovery family, find whatever it is, church, treatment, counselor, recovery coach, interventionist, it doesn't matter. Find those people that are willing to get behind you and really be there for you and not judge you, but just the most loving thing I can do is be absolutely honest with a human being, including myself. I am absolutely give you both barrels honest, but my door is always open because that's, I feel, the only way that we are going to be able to come together and really do something monumental about this movement. You know, I truly do believe that the Black Plague of today is addiction.
I agree with you. And now you have your family, right? You have your,
Yep.
I mean, could you have imagined back then? Because for me, like sometimes I'll look back and I'll be like, I can't imagine. Like, I can't believe how strong I am now in comparison, just in my journey as a mother. But thinking about back then, I bet you it was the first thing from your mind that you would be here today with that beautiful smile and your tie on and spreading so much love, because I see you. I am friends with you on Facebook and I see the love that you're putting out into the world and all the good things that you're doing. And you've got your family and your granddaughter and all these things. And I can't help but think, I bet you that young man in his darkest hour could have never envisioned where he would be today. And that's the part that I think is going to really connect with our listeners, that never giving up on hope.
Regardless of how dark it really was getting, there still was always, and I don't even know how, but there really was always just a tiny bit of hope that maybe this isn't the life that I was supposed to be living, you know, and here I am today and my life is totally different. I'm very blessed and grateful, you know, and I just want to share with you because I was thinking about it, like all those things, I get it. I've ran companies and I'm blessed because people have trusted me to do that, you know, keys and credit cards with trust, lots of trust. Those are accolades. Those are just things that my God have allowed to happen in my life because of his love and mercy for me, you know, and that grace to walk through all this stuff, you know. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so I just want to take a moment just to give you an opportunity to share with our listeners, how can people work with you? Like, where's your expertise lie, and how can people find you?
You can find my website at www.therecoverycorps.com, and that is CORPS, like the Marine Corps. It's not corpse. People say corpse, but it's the recoverycorps.com. You can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Sean Stradling. You can find me on Facebook. And I'll give you my phone number. My phone number is 509-290-2613. I'm here in Spokane. I just love working with adolescent people that are failure to launch. You know, I remember being that 15-year-old that felt that certain way, that just life is not fair and, you know, I'm different and all these things, you know. It's really just anyone that is suffering from those limiting beliefs that I'm never going to be good enough. And that is such a lie. That's the biggest lie I've ever told myself, is that I'm never going to be good enough, that I'm this downright loser. I'm the worst human being, you know, because I did suffer from thinking it was a moral dilemma, and it's not a moral dilemma. I am an amazing man. And I just suffered from this thing that I didn't understand was so powerful that I couldn't do it on my own.
Wait a minute. Like what you just said was huge. That's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that's and I don't take any claim. That is from the literature of some programs that I am in. You know, everything, my experiences, because of working those programs and working with other men and walking through these things time and time again. I want to work with men because it doesn't matter. Even I'm starting to expand a little bit on the coaching side. So I want to work with everybody that I possibly can, not necessarily just recovery. But that is my expertise. That is my experience. The addicted side, and then the recovery side. You know, I'm a nationally certified recovery coach. We took the class together. That's where we met. So the ideal client is just someone that is suffering from this. My disease is my mind. Yep. My mind tells me that I need the alcohol and drugs to cope, that I need the alcohol and drugs to be better, to fit in, to stop feeling less than, again, it's that illusion, that lie that I fell into. And then, of course, you get into the other stuff that I won't get into now, the genetics and, just the components. Regardless, it's here. This is what tells me I need something outside of myself to make myself better. So the curriculum that I use is strength-based. That means you get to go out and do the goal setting. You get to go and do these actions. And I'm just there to walk you through it, to be that support, because I think we all need it. We absolutely do. Personally, I think every youth should have a coach, a mentor, a leader, somebody in their life. And I pray that it's their mom and dad in their home. And if not, then I pray that somebody steps in and does that to at least a hug can go a long way. The words "I love you" go a long way.
Thank you for that. And before we close, because you touched on this, and I don't know our listeners' level of understanding about all these terminologies, which is why I keep pointing it out. But you had mentioned failure to launch, and would you mind just touching on that lightly?
Sure. So failure to launch is, in a nutshell, we grow up and those skills that we were supposed to go through and have are non-existent.
Yep.
They call it a failure to launch because we are behind the times as far as where we should be, or at least where society says we should be in living skills, coping skills, life skills. I was 33 years old when I got clean. It's
never too late.
Yeah,
it's never too late.
Right.
Thank you so much, Sean, for being with me today and just being so vulnerable and willing to just share. And like I said, I'm just so grateful to know that you're out there in the world, and just know that I'm just sending you so much love on your journey. And I'm going to go ahead and drop some of the links below when we post this so folks can find you. And thank you so much.
Yep, thank you.
I just wish you all the best on this journey ahead. And when you do write your book, I want a copy.
I will give you a copy. I will sign and send you a copy.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and for helping me to connect with other moms of addicts or loved ones who are struggling with addiction in their lives. If you have questions for me, comments, suggestions on future show content, or perhaps there's a specific topic that you would like to hear from an expert in the field, I would love to hear from you. I am also interested in sharing your voice. So if you have messages of hope or personal stories that you think would resonate with our listeners, please send me an email. You can type me out a message, or you can include an attachment to an audio clip with your voice. You can send that to shar@beyondhoperadio.com. And with that, thank you again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond Hope. For show notes and more, head on over to beyondhoperadio.com.
A huge thank you to recoveryinnovators.com and James Healy. Thank you so much for putting up with me and for helping me to produce and launch the show. I couldn't have done it without you. You're so awesome. And to anybody else who has been considering working with James, highly recommend him. Please go over to his website and check it out, recoveryinnovators.com.